Warning: some contents may be disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. I have been debating on posting this, not because I have been scared, but simply because this is my first post since joining Reddit. Please forgive my writing, as sometimes my wording and punctuation could be better. I'll start off by explaining the area so that you can get a good picture of where this occurred. We lived in a small neighborhood. All of the surrounding streets dead end into a half-circle park, and behind the park are some woods and a railroad track. When we were younger, we all played in the front part of the woods. We never ventured too far back. This was our play area for years, and we never had an issue or scare. This area was a pretty and well-lit wooded area. Anyhow, one day my brother Jimmy, my best friend Sarah, and my brother's best friend Ian were all building a dam in the middle of the small creek that ran through the park and the woods. The boys decided that they were going to head back to Ian's house for some snacks, and Sarah and I said that we would stay and finish our camp area. As we are moving rocks around, I get a very odd feeling come over me. A strange feeling that we were being watched. I immediately think that it's the boys trying to scare us, and I just continue with what we were doing. Sarah and I loaded up some big rocks and head back to the creek and then put them down at the dam. I get that feeling again, and as I stand up, I see something straight in front of me about 30 feet away. I can't clearly make out what it is yet, but it is behind a bush, but I do see that it is a pattern of red and blue. I know that's nothing the boys had on, so at this point I am focusing trying to figure out what it is. And as I am scanning up the bush, I start to realize that it's a clown. I shit you not. My heart started pounding immediately. The clown and my eyes lock. He was wearing a blue/red hat with a reverse pattern of red/blue jumpsuit. I grab Sarah's shirt and I immediately pull her upright, and she notices the man right away. He is smiling with a full face of makeup, and he has a huge knife. We both say nothing, and we start running as fast as our legs can take us. He begins to follow. We can hear twigs snapping and ground crunching. We are both booking it. We run through the front of the woods, through the side of the park, and up her dead-end street. Ian and Jimmy are 2 houses up from the end and see us running and are screaming what is going on. And while running past, we scream a clown and they start laughing. We are still running, screaming for our lives, and finally make it to the middle of the street where Sarah's dad, Danny, is now running out the front door because he hears us screaming. We meet Danny right at the beginning of the neighbor's house, and we are trying to explain what we've seen, and he says, "Girls, stop it now. This is ridiculous. What are you talking about?" And we try to catch our breath. By this time, Jimmy and Ian have caught up to us. We are crying and pointing and telling Danny again that we've seen a clown with a knife. Jimmy and Ian are laughing, and Danny is asking if they played a prank on us. About this time, an old yellow Pinto type of car comes from the dead end at the park and pulls right up next to the sidewalk of the yard that we are in. And sure enough, plain as day, it's the fucking clown. No hat this time, but knife in hand, and then telling us to come here. Danny starts shoving us all toward the house, and he himself is scared and is running now. The car drives off down the street, and we get inside and Danny calls the police. We had to give statements. The police patrolled the neighborhood and the park for a few weeks. We were never allowed to go in the park again, and a few months after that, the city started to clear out the woods. They cut down many trees and made a walking area that you could see through all the way to the train tracks. My friend and I used to talk about this many times up until her death. No one would believe us had they not seen it as well. It was just so scary. I think they only got to see him because whoever it was had to go down the dead-end street to leave the neighborhood. Either way, this man was not afraid of us, nor the small group of people that gathered from our screaming. He very bravely stopped right in front of us as her father tried to comfort us and calm us down, all while flashing his knife. We are lucky to be alive, I feel. Had it just been one of us left in the woods, which sometimes occurred, I don't think there would have been a group of 4 of us any longer. Sarah's dad stopped drinking that day, and we all have a fear of clowns. Anyone remember back in 2016 that there was this big thing about killer clowns? Well, I didn't believe in any of it until it happened to me. I was in 10th grade when the whole clown thing happened. I didn't really believe it at first. I thought that it was just a big joke, just a bunch of losers that had nothing better to do but to scare people on Halloween. One night, I was walking home from my boyfriend's house. It was a far walk, but I liked getting out as much as I could, and I was looking forward for my long walk home. When I finally got to the east end of town, near the East Court Mall halfway home, I saw a group of people standing in the parking lot in the dark, and they started yelling at me. Now, I was a 16-year-old female at that time, so I was used to people, guys mostly, yelling at me or just whistling at me. I thought that it was a joke, just another group of guys yelling at me from across the street because they had nothing better to do. I just shook it off when I noticed that 2 of them were walking towards me. I couldn't make out their faces at first until they got a bit closer and were walking behind me now. I kept hearing them yelling at me, but the second time that they did it, they started laughing like psychopaths and laughing like clowns. I looked back to see that they were both wearing clown masks, and I could see behind them that there were 3 more clowns. I didn't want to panic or show them that I was scared, so I just walked a bit faster until I got to the end of my street. I didn't want them to see where I lived, so I made a wrong turn and I walked up to a house and I pretended to go inside. I hid behind a bush to see them walk right by me. Until I heard one of them yell out in a horrifying clown laugh, and a few others followed. And then another clown was yelling at me. "I'll find you, pretty lady. Come on, come out and play. We know where your street is, and we will find you. Yes, we will find you." They finally left after that, and I went home. But a few hours later, as I was getting a snack before bed, I happened to look out of my kitchen window to see a group of clowns walking past my house. I am a nurse in one of the most renowned children's hospitals in the country. I've worked here for almost 8 years, and I can only say that it stands true to its title. The pay is good, and I get along with my coworkers without much problem. Everything is perfect in this hospital. Except one thing. It's Rizo, the hospital clown. When I joined this hospital, I was told by my fellow colleagues about this rumor that has been circulating in the hospital since its establishment. The rumor is about a certain clown named Rizo, a weird name, right? Who roams the hospital and visits the sick children. None of the adults has ever seen him, but so many children have seen him over the years that it can't be considered as an elaborate prank. When they told me about him, I thought they were trying to tease me for being a newbie, and I took it as a joke and I said, "Yeah, perhaps Cinderella visit on Sundays too." They gave each other a look and left the topic at that. I got busy with work and I completely forgot about our conversation. In my third week at the hospital, I was doing the morning checkup on every patient on the floor when I entered Kevin's room. He was awake and smiling from ear to ear. "Good morning. Why are you up so early?" I asked. "The clown came to me at night. He was so funny when he entered the room. His pants fell and his duck walked to my bed because he was juggling balls so he couldn't pull his pants up," Kevin replied in one breath, still smiling as if remembering the last night's event. I remember this conversation with my colleagues and thought perhaps they have set up an elaborate prank by involving this kid. This was going too far. I was a bit mad, so I quickly finished the checkup and I went to confront my coworker. Her name was Emily. She has been working here for 13 years. She was the one who told me about the clown, so naturally, I thought that she was the culprit behind the prank. She was in the lunchroom drinking a cup of coffee. "You need to stop with the prank. It has gone far too long and it isn't funny," I said, approaching her table. "What are you talking about? What prank?" she asked, looking at me with a confused look. I rolled my eyes and I said, "Don't act naive. You told me about the clown and to scare me, you even involved the child to play a part in your prank." She stopped sipping on her coffee and gave me an odd look and said in a serious tone, "Explain from the beginning." So I did just that. I told her how I was going the routine rounds, and I told everything about my little chat with Kevin. And after I was done, I looked at her for an explanation. She just sipped her coffee and stared at the table. Her face looked a little paler from when I entered the room, and I noticed that her hands were shaking a little bit. I stood there impatiently and I was about to speak when she spoke. "The clown is real," she continued. "You can ask anyone from the staff. It isn't a prank or test for new workers. The clown is real, or as real as a ghost can be." "A ghost?" I was a bit shocked to say the least. I do not believe in ghosts. I think the concept of them was created to scare small children. "Yes. I don't know how to properly explain it, but it has been here before I joined. No one knows who he is or where he came from. All I know is he can be seen by children only. We have tried to capture him in the CCTV, but there has been no evidence of a clown in any footage. He visits patients randomly, and we can't figure out any pattern in his visitations. He visits the patient, make them laugh, talk to them, and leave." "So he's just a friendly clown that entertains children while they're sick? Well, what a friendly ghost," I said jokingly. "So it seems," replied Emily. "But we always pray that no child ever see that fucking clown." "Why?" She took a deep breath and then looked me in the eyes and said, "He is the harbinger of death. Whenever he visits someone, the patient dies within 2 days of seeing him. So all of us pray none of the patients ever see him. But now he has made an appearance. Poor Kevin." It took a moment to understand what she was saying. "So you're saying Kevin will die within 2 days?" She nodded. "You know, I almost believed your story, but now I know you're all full of shit. We just successfully removed his appendix. There is no real threat to his life. In fact, he's getting discharged today. So, you are saying a kid who has no serious health problems will die within 2 days just because an imaginary clown visited him? That's ridiculous. Emily just stared while I was ranting. When I finished, she got up and left the room. While passing me, she said, "You will realize soon enough." I stood there for a minute and then I left the room to continue my work. Just to make sure, I visited Kevin's room and I checked on him again. He was doing perfectly fine and he was eager to go home. At 1 p.m., he was discharged from the hospital. And the next day, he was dead. His mother had gone to the supermarket for groceries while his dad was at work. He was watching YouTube on his phone when she left. When she returned, she called him to help her with carrying the groceries to the kitchen. But he never answered. She went to his room and then saw him lying on the bed. She called him again but didn't stir. She rushed to check on him, but he wasn't breathing. She called the ambulance but it was too late. The paramedics declared him dead. I was beyond shocked when I learned about this news. He was doing well when he left yesterday. I inquired about his cause of death. Apparently, the cause of his death was unknown, and while I was still processing the information, I came across Emily. From the look of your face, I guess you've heard about Kevin's death. I already warned you this was going to happen, but you didn't believe me. I was getting angry as she spoke, as if she was the reason that Kevin died. If she hadn't told me about the clown, Kevin would still be alive. I looked up and I was about to yell at her when I looked at her face and realized that she wasn't trying to be mean and that she was sad as well. She continued, "This is your first time, right? I have seen dozens of these deaths throughout my career, and I wasn't able to stop them even when I knew about them, so I know how you're feeling." "Is there no way to stop him?" I asked softly. She shook her head and said, "No. If there was, why would I have kept it a secret?" Then why is this hospital still open? Why doesn't management close this hospital if we can't stop that clown from killing these poor children?" I asked a bit angrily. "Because Rizo only appears in front of 3 to 4 children in a year. And as you know, this is one of the best children's hospital in our country. We save thousands of lives every year. If we shut down, what will happen to them? Setting up this kind of hospital will take a lot of time and money, and still, there is no guarantee that Rizo will not follow to the new hospital," she replied. "Then we should forcefully shut the hospital down. We should inform the media or at least parents of these children. If they know, nobody will bring their children to the hospital, and then the clown will never appear," I said desperately. "Did you believe me when I told you about the clown?" she asked, and I was silent. "You didn't. The same will happen if we try to inform the world. No one is going to believe it. I mean, a clown no one can see except children, and they die after seeing it? People will think it's just a publicity stunt to attract people's attention towards the hospital." She continued, "Besides, some of these children require expert medical treatment, which only we can offer. So some parents may bring their children even if they know about the clown just to save their child." I stood there, as I knew she was correct. I have seen some of these children who will die if they were not in our hospital. I was feeling helpless. I was not sure what I should do. "You should try to save as many of these children as you can. The clown will take a few, but you should try to focus on the patients that you have saved through your work. And this may help you a little to keep you sane." And with that, she left me there standing alone to continue her work. I stood there for a while thinking about her words, and I decided then and there that I will follow her words, and I will try to save every patient that I can, no matter how much time it takes. Years passed, and I threw myself into work. During the first 6 years of my work, Rizo appeared 23 times in front of children, and all 23 of them died. These last 2 years, Rizo didn't appear at all. Me and everyone else thought that he has left for good. But all of our hopes were shattered today. There were 283 patients in hospital rooms last night, and he appeared in all of them. This happened in October of 2018. It was during the time when I was working at a riding stable. This is by far the freakiest thing that has ever happened. It started off with me mucking out stalls and taking horses in and out of the pastures. At around 12:30 p.m., my mom came to pick me up from work. Since I work at 8:30 a.m., I work for the morning hours, then have the rest of the day off. As I got in my van with my mom, she said that she drove past a cornfield a few streets down from the barn, and what she saw while on her way to get me was a clown. I asked her what the clown looked like, and she gave me a brief description of the clown. The clown looked like Pennywise from It, the 2017 remake," my mom said. "I couldn't get a clear view of it, but that's what I remember what he looked like." And as soon as my mom said that, I questioned her on what street that she saw the clown at. When my mom told me that the cornfield was not far from a trail, I knew what she was talking about. The trail my mom was talking about used to be a train track many years ago, but ever since the train track was removed, people used it for many purposes like hiking, dog walking, dirt biking, and many more. My mom wanted to take the trail that was by the cornfield, the one where she saw the clown. I was going to tell her that it wasn't a good idea, but she insisted that we do and take my dog there. My dog was a German Shepherd Golden Retriever mix, so he was about a few months old at that time. He wasn't really big, but he was always so rambunctious that we had to walk him every day. It was a pain to say the least, but it was fun too. My mom drove down a road that she took to drive me to and from work or riding. It was a quiet road and it never got busy. When my mom got to the cornfield where the trail was, she parked her van and me and her took the dog out. We couldn't see the clown, but I wonder if he ran off to hide or something. I didn't want to look for the clown, of course, so we just started walking down the trail. It was surrounded by trees with leaves changing colors. It was fall, which was my mom's favorite season. And as we walked down the trail, we let my dog go to run and do his own thing. After a few feet away from the van, I noticed a dirt bike on the ground. And upon getting closer, I looked to see that the bike had been there for a while. Unsure about if the bike was stolen or not, I noticed some damage done to it. The tires were slashed, the chain was broken, and the bike seat was also ripped. I looked to see if anyone was around, but I couldn't see anyone, thinking that whoever left the bike was taking a piss or something. And my dog was staring at something in the wilted cornfield. I walked up to my dog, I grabbed his leash to be safe, and when I took hold of the leash, I looked up at the cornfield. Winter was approaching within a few weeks, so it was normal to see most of the cornfields wilted in the area. I then see a figure in the field. That was what my dog was looking at. My mom was a couple of feet behind me, so she wasn't that far behind. I can see that the figure looked like the clown that my mom saw earlier. He looked to be about 6 foot tall. He was medium build, and he did look like the clown my mom described it to be. I wasn't sure why he was standing in the wilted cornfield, but I had no idea what his plans were. As I stared at the clown figure, it turned around to face me, and I can see that the clown had an axe in his right hand, and that's when shit hit the fan. To the right of the clown, I can see at least 3 or 4 men dressed in black about a few feet away from the clown. I was nearly pissing myself as I wondered about why those men were here. If it was private property or something, and why couldn't they have just told us to leave? The clown slowly began to walk towards me and my dog, and I almost froze in fear at that point. Suddenly, out of nowhere, there was a blood-curdling scream from somewhere in the forest. It sounded like a woman was screaming, and I lost my shit right then and there, so I booked it down the way that I came with my dog, not looking back at all. And when I caught up with my mother, I told her to run, and so we did. Despite my mom having breathing problems, we ran all the way back towards our van. And as soon as we got to our van, we looked back to see if the clown was behind us. There was no one following us, but we didn't want to stay to find out. My mom drove down the road until we got to our hometown, looking occasionally for any vehicle that might be suspicious. When we got back, we reported the clown incident to the police, and they went to the location where we found the clown. Shortly after that, we headed home without any hesitation. The next day, my mom got a phone call from the police when she picked me up from work. And what they said will forever send chills down my spine. My mom told me that the clown, with 3 or 4 men, were luring people down the trail we went to. They had found a few bodies of people, one of them being a 6-year-old girl. I was sickened by what the police found, knowing that those men were waiting for me and possibly my mom and dog in the field. If my dog hadn't alerted me and my mom about that clown and his men, I wouldn't be alive today. Let this be a warning. If you see anyone wearing a clown mask in the forest or in a cornfield, run away from it. Don't stay with a clown if you want to stay alive. Several years ago, my wife, our daughter, and I were invited to a birthday party. It was a friend of ours' first child, and being that they were pretty well off, they always went all out on these parties. They'd rent out a place, they would supply all the food and drinks, and they would usually hire a few different entertainment vendors, like a DJ, a bounce house, and you guessed it, clowns. The kid was maybe about 5 or 6 at that time, so I suppose they may have been interested in it. But upon getting there, they definitely seemed more interested in playing dress-up. It was supposed to be a princess ball style, so there were tons of kids in big dresses and suits. The party wasn't too bad though. It was at a community center, and as expected, they had different foods and snacks, all served on the fake painted silver plasticware to make it look royal, I suppose. The clown, of course, was then dressed to be more like a jester. He was doing silly stunts and magic tricks, as well as balloon animals and crowns. The kids seemed entertained for a while, and then they would lose interest. He did well at keeping character even when the kids weren't aware. He walked around and he offered balloons to the kids. He would help them up the blow-up slide and even casually talked with us. He didn't give off any weird vibes either. Anything borderline weird, like when a kid hurt their leg or when another's dress got caught on something, he'd have a parent come over to help. Definitely seemed like an up and up guy, and we even mentioned it to our friend. Mackenzie actually said that she had been referred to this guy by other people in her area that had used him before, and with all the great reviews, she decided to go with him. As the party was ending, kids were beginning to get tired and some were cranky and crying, so I walked out back to smoke while my wife talked with the others. As I was walking out, I saw the clown leaning against a crappy old car, smoking as well. Again, the guy deals with kids all day for a living, so I can't say I blame him. I walked over to him and we started talking for a bit. I thanked him and he commented that they were some of the better behaved kids that he had worked with. I don't know where the conversation devolved from there, but we got on the topic of careers, and so I took a shot and I asked him why he chose to be a clown. I remember him just staring at me for a minute and making a comment along the lines of, you seem like a truthful guy, and stared at me a little longer. He then looked away and said something about, it's the job on the books. I didn't know what he meant by that, so I just laughed and he stared at me. And now, it felt awkward, so I just shrugged it and said, yeah, of course. And finally, he laughed too and made a comment about, I knew you'd get it. You have a family to take care of, so you'd do whatever you needed for them, right? And so I agreed. I don't know what I did or said to make him trust me, but from there, he just started unloading. He started talking about how it started with him working at the post office with his mother after he got out of jail for possession. His mom made him get a job since he was going to be living with her. He started learning, and as he put it, business and government politics. And he hated how they were so strict on things that you couldn't do there. He hated how much they took out in taxes, so he started to do his own little research. He started asking questions on forums, researching, and even started his own website to post his own blogs. This got him into what I'm just gonna call it as it is, conspiracies. He said he learned about the different types of taxes that were taken out and wanted to know what they were used for. That's when he found the wrong forums for answers. He learned that the money goes to the government on the checks, but it actually goes to the NSA to fund their experiments and operations. Stunned at how well he held in the crazy and trying not to laugh, I just asked what he meant by operations. He stopped, and he looked around at first and said that there are people around us that aren't who they appear to be. Again, I asked what he meant by that. He then started talking about how when someone seems different, like when they don't remember important details like memories, dates, names, or when someone looks just different enough, like their eyes were green and now they appear brown. He said that's when the NSA snatches people up, brainwash them to become their drone basically, and then release them back into the public to continue life as normal. I asked why they would do this, and his reasoning was to spy on us. He said they do this so that they have inconspicuous people around to see where people are making money and how much. That way, they could adjust taxes or add new tax bills, or to see if they are a threat to their operations or experiments, and if they needed to be taken out. So, what does all of this have to do with being a clown? He said that way, the government could see how much money he's making and do whatever they want with it, while he ran his website and video channel on how to stay safe and gave lessons that he charged for, products that he sold, and donations, which was where he made his real money. That way, they also couldn't trace his purchases. He even continued to live with his mom, so he didn't need a high-paying job and just paid his mom for rent. all this just tossed at me, to a guy that seemed completely sane, playing around with our kids. I took one more shot, and I asked him how he knew about any of this and what made him think that it was real. He then handed me a piece of cardstock with some name and website written on it. He said that he didn't want to pay for business cards, as that would then be on public records, and this was to be kept more underground. All he would tell me was that he was just a regular old Joe Schmo, and that's what was written on the card. Great. He said that I should check it out as he had better info on it and great packages on how to check your home for any bugs or how to check friends and family without giving yourself away. I started putting the card away when my wife walked out and asked me to help inside. I agreed, and I started wrapping up with this Joe when he asked me if I have noticed anything different about my wife. I told him no. He told me to keep an eye out as they are typically the first ones to go, women, because they are easier to abduct. So I told him that I would keep an eye out, thanked him, and I started walking back in, to which he shouted that he'll check in with me later, and I nodded to him. I didn't notice till I was back inside what he had said. I didn't give him any of my information. Thinking he just thought he did, I let it go. What I did not let go, though, was telling Mackenzie. I don't know if he should be around kids or even people. What if he suspected someone at the party? What would he try to do? She said that she was going to report it, but that's about all I knew. However, our interactions wouldn't stop there. I started noticing this guy a few times during the next few days. He would be sitting in his car, smoking, just watching me leave work, my kids' school, and even my home. I didn't tell my wife because I didn't want to freak her out, but my wife noticed him outside our home. I was pissed, and I was scared too. I didn't know what he was thinking of doing. My wife said that she was going to call the police, but I went out there to confront him. I don't remember what all I said, but I just remember becoming even angrier because he was just smiling. His reasoning was that he spilled a lot of information to me and didn't go through the proper steps to make sure that I was really trustworthy, so he had to follow up. He was obviously able to find out who I was and all about me, which was terrifying. But he said that I had been cleared and that I wouldn't ever see him in person again, and then he left. The cops did show up, and we gave as much information as possible. I didn't even have the card anymore as I thought that it was bullshit, so I just threw it away. I will say, I never saw him again after that. No threats, no calls. Never saw him. I don't know whatever happened to him, but the number Mackenzie used to book him didn't work anymore either. I know this happened several years ago, but I always think about this whenever I notice someone doesn't remember something. They very well should. And here's the riddle for this video. Hey everyone, this is your creepy sister. Thank you so much for watching the video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to leave a like and a comment. It really helps the channel out. A big shout out to both my channel members and Patreon members. Thank you so much for taking your support to the next level. You guys are great. And again, to everyone, stay scared because your fear feeds me.